clear, correct?
Yikes. Deep red. We don't need any more of these.
Apologies, everybody. You should be able to hear us now. As long as we're coming 5x5s. I see him in chat. There we go. Right. Sorry about that slightly slow start to the stream here. We are, of course, live at the Cape for the launch of NG-20 atop a Falcon 9. This will be the first launch of Cygnus on top of a Falcon 9. It's a very exciting launch. I'm sure everybody can agree. So let's have a look at the rocket. There it is, standing proud atop Space Launch Complex 40 with the, it's all vertical, the crew access arm is retracted, and we have this wonderful now 5-tower view that we are so accustomed to. My name is Ryan Caton. I will be talking over this fantastic launch today, but it's not just going to be my voice you get to listen to. Also, alongside me here, I have Alex.
Hi, and I don't know, it's a rare launch because it's Cygnus on Falcon. That's like weird. We have two birds on top of each other, I guess.
Yeah, it's certainly, it's a combination we've never seen before.
Yeah.
But Cygnus is launcher agnostic. It's designed to be able to launch on any rocket which will fit it in the fairing and, you know, have enough thrust to be able to take it up to the International Space Station. So I would say this is unexpected, but we've never seen it before, which is why it's exciting. And of course, in the field, gonna be probably embarrassing us with his pun master skills, Sawyer Rosenstein. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm not feeling too great today. I must be down with the Cygnus.
Oh my.
I started off with the pun strong. No, I'm actually doing really good. There is not a cloud in the sky here at the Cape and a rocket on the pad, so it's a good day.
A good day indeed. Now, Alex, as we were just hinting to, this has never happened before. It's a very rare flight at the moment. Do you want to give us a little rundown of what we're expecting today?
Yeah, so I'll talk first about perhaps the profile of today's mission. So we're going to have, it's going to look very much like when they launch something, you know, that is not a Starlink, I guess, but it's like another kind of payload that they launch on a fairing, right? Where they have a payload that you just want to launch into low Earth orbit or something like that. And so it's going to be a common, you know, 8.5 minute ascent into orbit. We're going to see 2 minutes and 20 seconds or so of burn time for the first stage. And then the second stage is going to fire for another 6 minutes or so. The payload variants will release and things like that. And the interesting thing for this mission is the fact that it's going to be releasing Cygnus and it's going to be heading to the International Space Station. I think this is the first time a Falcon 9, because this is another thing. This is the first time probably Falcon 9 has launched something to the International Space Station that is not a Dragon, if you think about it. Because there's no module, no satellite or anything like it. It's always been Dragon on top of Falcon 9 going to the ISS, but now it's also Cygnus, which is interesting to think about that. But yeah, and so it's going to head northeast, just like all of the, you know, just like usually for these ISS missions, it's going to head northeast. So those, it's daylight though, maybe up north on the east coast of the United States. You may see something. It's usually better visible during the night though. But if you do see something, do let us know because it's interesting. It's always interesting to see people saying, hey, I saw the rocket. And so for this mission though, you will not see, if you are up the coast, you will not see one thing, which sometimes can be seen up the coast, which is the re-entry burn of the first stage, because that booster, it's going to be coming back to land at LC1. It's going to be coming back here to the Cape. That booster is B1077. It has flown already 9 missions. This is going to be its 10th. It launched missions such as Crew 5, GPS 3 SVO6, Inmarsat 6 Flight 2, Starlink 510, Ceres 28, Galaxy 37, Starlink 613, Starlink 625, and the most recent mission was Starlink 633. So this is going to be its 10th mission. Again, it's going to be landing back on land at LC1 because Cygnus is about 8.5, 9 tons, right? And Falcon 9 can pretty much do that kind of payload into orbit. and being able to return back the booster. So it's a fairly kind of easy mission for the booster in that sense. But yeah, I think I touched on most of the things. One other thing, and we're probably going to talk about this later, but these fairings, they are special, and yet they're going to be recovered. So we have Dog downrange being awaiting there for the splashdown of these fairings, and so that's going to be another thing being recovered on this flight. That's awesome.
We've got some support coming in, as always. Very grateful of the support. We also had a ton of support, and I'm not exaggerating there, before the stream even started. So thank you everybody for that. I'm starting off with Musical Wolves, a very, very common name in chat, asking with a $2 super chat, how full are the ISS docking ports? So Alex, do you want to hit that one? I assume that means how many ports are available, because as we've been seeing over the last few years, the ISS has been getting busier and busier and busier.
Yeah. Fortunately, the good thing is Cygnus is not docking, it's a berth. And so so just to go over a little bit here, so the Russian segment has at least 3 docking ports, normal docking ports, then it has a 4th on the pre-shell module and multiple for modules around the pre-shell module. That's the Russian segment. The US segment, though, it has only 2 docking ports. So it's a bit different because the Russians have like multiple progress usually docked and things like that, and then on the US side it's more like they just try to get the crew missions together, the cargo missions launch later and things like that, instead of having crew and cargo all the time and things like that. But the advantage of Cygnus is it doesn't take up those 2 docking ports because it berths, and so for this one, and actually all of the Cygnuses that have been launched, they berth to the Unity module. The first we actually had this morning or yesterday, I guess, Endeavour being lifted at the California Science Center. Endeavour launched on STS-88 that Unity module, and that is precisely the module that Cygnus is going to be berthed to. It's going to be the Nadir module, the Nadir port, excuse me, which is the Earth-facing side. So it's going to be facing the Earth. And one of the things that it's so the reason, this is mostly the reason, it's not the full reason, but mostly the reason why they put it there is because that is the closest to the center of gravity or center of mass, I guess, of the ISS. And Cygnus now can reboost the station. So what they do is they flip the station 90 degrees so that, the front looks down on Earth. And now Cygnus is looking forwards because it's, docked on the bottom, I guess, of the station. And so they rotate the whole station 90 degrees and they fire the engine on Cygnus to be able to reboost. And it's really cool. And again, if it were another port farther away from the center of mass, then you will have a torque, the station will turn and things like that. So it's definitely very, I don't know, like it's very cool that we can have that capability also with Cygnus.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth talking about the difference, just to make it perfectly clear. Docking is the spacecraft like Dragon automatically going into the port itself, doesn't need any assistance. It uses lasers and autonomous stuff. The shuttle was actually hand-flown, whereas Cygnus, with the berthing and the means they'll need to use the ISS Canadarm to grab it and then mate it to the station.
Yeah, and I guess I should say also the capture to the ISS is scheduled right now on February 1st at 4:20 a.m. Eastern. So that will be 9:20 UTC on February 1st.
I'm trying to see if we can bring up a quick example video here of the berthing, but YouTube likes to give me ads. Let's see. Let's have a look. There you go. So that's what we mean with berthing. The actual Canadarm sticks it to the ISS. There you go, everybody.
Yeah. And that's actually how Dragon 1 used to be, where they had the Canadarm grabbing Dragon 1 and then it was berthed. In the case of Dragon, it used to berth to the Harmony module, the one that is to the front of the station. They have at least 2 common, so they have 2 docking ports and then 2 places where they usually tend to berth things. They have a 3rd port, but they don't use that one too often, and it's actually very rarely used. But the 2 main berthing ports are, again, on the Unity, that's for Cygnus, and then on Harmony, we usually see spacecraft such as the HTV or Dragon 1 used to berth there. And in the future, hopefully later this year, we'll see Dream Chaser berthing to that port, which is, again, it's on the Earth-facing side of the Harmony module, which is at the front of the station.
Kiefer's channel, so if I'm mispronouncing that, has become a Capcom member. That means you get access to the fabled member Discord server, which is a very nice place to hang out. Musical Balls is also in the super chat saying amazing Cygnus on Falcon 9. Wilbo saying with a £10 super chat, so happy to watch this unusual launch live. Thank you, NSF. You're very welcome. And Sideshow Bob has gifted 1 Red Team membership. Now, Kanan, sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, is asking, is NG-20 the name of the craft or the name of the mission? Now, Sawyer, could you give us a little kind of rundown on all the names? Because I believe the actual Cygnus is named after a former astronaut, if I'm correct. I don't know whether we've lost Sawyer there momentarily.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go.
Did hear some venting, by the way, coming from the pad over here, so hopefully fueling is well underway. But yes, the mission is called NG-20, which stands for Northrop Grumman, since it's their vehicle at the moment. But the spacecraft itself, they name all of them after fallen astronauts or people who made big contributions to the space industry. And this one is the SS Patricia Hilliard Robertson.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and in her case, she didn't get to fly, unfortunately. She had a plane accident before she got to fly, and so that is sort of the recognition, because she was going to be medical sciences and things like that on the ISS before her expedition to the ISS, and so Northrop Grumman just named this Cygnus spacecraft after her.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're talking about mission names and things like that with NG-20, I do want to point out, as much as we keep talking that this is the first Falcon Cygnus from Florida, it is not the first Cygnus launch from Florida. There have been 2 previously. After the Orb 3 explosion in Virginia, where about 4 seconds after it lifted off the pad, it started to come back down and blew up, and it was, they had to redo the entire Pad 0A out there. So they, like you said, it can basically fly on any vehicle that it fits in, so they moved it down to the Cape to fly on Atlas V. So OA4 and OA5 flew on the Atlas V. And yes, in case you're wondering, it was originally Orbital Sciences, hence Orb 3. Then it was Orbital ATK, which is OA4. And now it's Northrop Grumman, which is why this is NG-20.
We love how buyouts and name changes and everything always changes how these things are referred to.
We also had, it was OA4 and OA7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so yeah, the numbering was
Yeah.
weird on that. Sorry.
Yeah, because they did it out of order for some reason. The Atlas flights, I mean.
Yeah.
Almost like they were taking a thing from Shuttle.
Yeah, I mean, doing missions out of the number order is like, if your missions go in number order, there must be something wrong. That's just not how aerospace works. You're meant to do things out of order. There's just a rule of spaceflight. Starlink does it. Shuttle did it. Cygnus did it.
Yeah, because they did OA4, because that was, as you mentioned, the one after Orb 3. And so they did OA4 and OA5 on Atlas V. Then OA6 was on Antares. And then they launched OA7 on Atlas. Because I think there was something about the upmass of Atlas at that point that was... There was a whole thing there about something about the upmass being important for that mission in particular. So they got the Atlas instead. Because they had already flown on Atlas, so they were like, okay, we'll do it.
We're approaching T-minus 30 minutes here. We're getting ever closer. We Alex, is there anything that we should be pointing out around this time, or does the visual stuff really start at T-20 with that vent we're also accustomed to nowadays?
Well, normally, usually, if it's during the night, sometimes we start seeing frost on the vehicle around this time because we already passed the T-minus 35-minute point. That is when the auto sequence starts, and that is when the automated ground computers to just start that process of fully fueling the rocket with propellant, with the liquid oxygen, the RP-1 ahead of flight. It starts first with RP-1 being loaded on both the first and second stages, and also the liquid oxygen on the first stage. Then they wrap up the RP-1 load on the second stage, and they proceed to load the second stage with liquid oxygen. And that's when we see that T-minus 20-minute vent. But obviously around T-minus 32 minutes, 31 minutes, we start seeing that frost. But obviously during the night is more visible because it's usually colder. You see some of the condensation around the rocket. And so it might take a little bit more here during daylight, which is it's also a rare thing if you think about it, because we're so used nighttime launches nowadays. But yeah, we're gonna see it real quick here. I bet. SpaceX said at T-minus 1 hour that they were going for this launch. So I'm presuming that they have started propellant load, but we're gonna get that confirmation without venting. I think I'm starting to see something across the TE though.
And I have heard noises that are indicative of when it started fueling. So
they usually have this venting. They even say from the callouts, Falcon 9 tanks are venting for the start of propellant load or something like that. And so they vent the tanks to be able to allow all of the fluids inside.
Mm-hmm. And there's a question here from Linus Space asking, is it going to be a landing zone landing today? And well, I do have to say, we have one of our Cape cams pointed in this specific direction for a reason, don't we, Alex?
Yeah, and that is precisely what we're looking for today. We're looking for the landing back on land of that booster. Again, this is going to be its 10th landing. I believe... Hang on. I think this is probably going to be its first landing back on land. Because all of its missions have been
Alex is now
ship
going to
landings.
furiously look through all of his spreadsheets.
Or better yet, just check on next spaceflight.
Yeah, this is the first landing because everything has been either Starlink, it was CRS-28 and Crew 5, but those were when they were doing drone ship landings for those type of missions, and then a GTO mission, 2 GTO missions. So yeah, this is going to be the first landing back on land for this booster. Wow, on its 10th flight. Normally, boosters tend to get their first landing a little bit early. So that's interesting.
Let's hope it has its land legs as not its sea legs for this one.
There we can see the countdown clock at the Kennedy Space Center press site. Our actual stream camera for today is located on the Space Force side, which means we can see the... Oh, thanks, Kat. We can see the give me a minute. Sawyer, those are radar balls, I think?
Yeah, they are radar tracking dishes that are inside those 2 little spheres to the left of the crew access tower there. You normally don't get to see these from when we're at the press site, so this is kind of unique to this Space Force view, which, for reference, we are just barely over 2 miles away from the launch pad itself, the spot, and approximately 3.5 miles away from LZ-1.
Thanks very much. I'm going to run through some support here very quickly. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing with a $5 super chat saying, will any of the space stations planned for the near future be able to self-boost, or will they have to rely on docked ships as well? Alex, that's a very important question, because I think stations like Axiom Station, for example, that are only and vast are going to be accessible with Crew Dragon, and currently that doesn't really have the boosting capabilities that Cygnus does.
Yeah, so for example, VAST does have its own propulsion capabilities. I believe Axiom modules, each one have their own propulsion because they need to get up there. So the Axiom modules are going to be pre-positioned or pre-assembled, I guess, on the ISS, so they need to get up there. So they're launching to orbit, and now they need to rendezvous and dock to the ISS and dock between each other, right? So they need to have their own propulsion systems. So they probably will be able to use all of that. I'm not sure about, for example, Blue's orbital reef station. It'll probably have something. Voyager Space, I think it also has like a big module that is just propulsion systems. So that is also going to be with its own propulsion. Overall, the ISS also has its own propulsion systems. Like a lot of people think that it's just docking vehicles that provide the boost, but Zvezda, for example, has its own propulsion systems. The only thing is that if you already have a vehicle docked, why not, right?
Yeah. Chad has become a PADRAP member. Thanks very much, Peter. Gifting 1 Red Team membership. RT Horseman, another very common name in chat, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Another super chat from I'd Rather Be Flying an X-Wing saying, video request, how does the Octograbber work? Well, I'm not going to leak anything, but we've been thinking about some fleet things. That's all I'm going to say. Brock has become a PADRAP member. Joe Howard gifting 5 Red Team memberships. The Gaming Ham became Red Team member. James becoming a PADRAP member, and Revhead gifting 5 Red Team memberships. I'm gonna, while I scour through the queue here for some questions, such as this one from DS Cuba, asking, did we spot the door on the fairing? Now, Alex, you just want to describe what the door on the fairing means, because Cygnus has a specific little bit in its contract, which means you have to be able to get payload on there late, not like 2 weeks before.
Yeah, and it is actually interesting because SpaceX just decided to, yeah, why not? You have a contract and you need to have these capabilities, so we'll develop a hatch on the fairing for you to be able to late load this cargo. Now, there's a misconception here, though, that I've seen. They don't use the crew access arm. They actually have that late load capability. They do it horizontal, just like they did, for example, with Dragon 1. We have actually released this morning a flyover video where we show what perhaps might be the contraption, the hardware, whatever you want to call it, right, that they may have used to be able to do that late load cargo on Cygnus for this mission. And so we haven't seen yet that door. It should be on this side. So the side that we're looking here at the fairing should be the one that have had that late load cargo. Now, the only thing is that we cannot see that close up, I guess. So it's rather hard to see any hatches on it, but there's a hatch there. I think it's like 1.2 by 1.5 meters across, which will be 5 by 4 foot or something like that. So yeah, it's really interesting that they have developed this capability. You know, it's a customer asking for something, they're paying for it, so why not?
Yeah.
Right? And we're gonna have a similar
cheeky look at the flyover here. You can see this little. You can't see my mouse. I mean, there's a little like conservatory looking thing underneath the Dragon on the left there.
Yeah, that is for Dragon 1. That's actually a Sawyer picture, by the way. Good shot there, Sawyer. And that is actually an old one though, because that's the old. That might be CRS 10, maybe. Do you remember, Sawyer?
Mine was CRS 12.
Ooh, CRS 12. Oh, that was the first no, that was the last new Dragon. There you go. So
Right.
yeah, that's how they loaded cargo on Dragon 1, late load cargo on Dragon 1. Now they have obviously Dragon 2 with the crew access arm and things like that. But back then they needed to load cargo late into the process, and that's how they did it. And that's how they're doing it now. Obviously with a different sort of hardware, but it kind of looks very similar. And yeah, the approach is the same. You just load it while it's horizontal, put it vertical, and bish bash bosh, I guess, and Bob's your uncle. All the things.
Nicking my sayings now, Alex.
Yeah, because you cannot talk as much today, so I'm trying to get you your things. I could try a British accent, but that will be very offensive.
I'm definitely not trying.
Something I just want to ask you really quickly. In front of our camera here, we're seeing loads of, well, it's America, so pickup trucks going left, right on a road there. Isn't this like right next to the pad? Like, why are these cars too close? Like, why are there cars here? Like, surely this is in some kind of exclusion zone. Like, what's going on?
Some of it is perspective because the road is definitely closer than it appears. I like the thing on the mirrors on cars. Object in mirror is closer than they appear. Object on camera is closer than they appear. But in terms of the launch area for this mission, it's actually a 1 mile, basically radius to keep out of on this side. So that road is outside of 1 mile for now. So you'll see cars driving by up until basically liftoff.
Yeah, and I saw this other question as well on chat, whether the building on the left is the VAB. It's not the VAB. We're a bit far away from the VAB, right, Sawyer, in this location?
Yeah, basically, in my entire field of view from where I'm at, Falcon 9 and 40 is all the way on the right. 39A is dead ahead of me, and the VAB is just to the left of my vision.
Yeah.
Trying to
So
bring it
this
up,
is.
Google Earth to try and explain it a little bit, but it's
Oh, there you go.
kind of shooting this way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. So one of those two, you can see two buildings there. One of those two is where I really don't remember right now which one of those two, but I think it's the one on the north of those two is the one that SpaceX uses for payload integration for Cygnus, for example. Cygnus, I think it was integrated on that one, on that building, but it is not the one that we're looking at here, right, Sawyer?
Correct.
Because we're looking at the one on the south. The other one is further north.
Let me see if I can pull up the view as well.
I believe
from where I'm broadcasting.
when we see Slick 41 launches from here, like I distinctly remember the daytime proto flight for Kuiper, we could see both of the buildings because you're shooting further to the left. Because funnily enough, Slick 41 is further to the left, as you can see here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
that is sort of the explanation of where we are.
Going to look for some more questions here, such as Jimmy Wright asking, how did the fairing survive re-entry without burning up? Now, that has an Alex question written all over it.
Yeah, so one of the reasons is they have a very like the surface area that they present to the air is very high compared
Alex.
to the.
Before we get to the hot, how about we get to the cool? That is the vent. T-minus 20-minute best vent.
There we go. You can see there that T-minus 20-minute vent. As I was saying before, this is the LOX chill down. They chill down the lines that go to the liquid oxygen tank on the second stage. And that is when they are able to basically load the liquid oxygen afterwards. Because otherwise you have lines that are basically at room temperature. And so you need to condition them ahead of flight so that, you just don't get flash boil off or the metal gets all brittle and damaged and things like that. You certainly don't want that kind of thing.
And also, I think this is a great way to point out the weather as well, because we've seen it where the 20-minute vent, that exhaust, is blowing sideways in like a straight line. You can see there, it's pretty much just hanging out around the base of the rocket. So there is minimal wind here, and that's a way to show it, as it kind of just hangs out.
Okay, so one little correction to what I said before. It is not the north building, because I thought the vertical integration facility for ULA was actually more north, but that's actually the building on the north. It's ULA's vertical integration facility. The other one, the one to the south, the one that we were able to see a little bit on the left here, that is the payload integration facility for SpaceX. For certain missions, not all missions go through here. Some of them are processed at Astrotech in Titusville, I think it is. Sawyer, you're a bit more local than me.
It is in Titusville, yes.
Okay, it is in Titusville. And then they also have the Hangar X2 building at Robertson to integrate a lot of the Starlink missions as well. So they have multiple places where they can integrate these missions.
Wonderful. Right, I'm going to try and look for some more questions here, such as the one from How9000 asking, has the larger fairing for Falcon been certified yet? Now, we saw on This Week in Spaceflight, which I happened to be involved in a few weeks ago now, we saw some sneaky images being tweeted, and if I remember, swiftly deleted from Twitter from a certain NASA facility, Alex. So what's the deal with the longer Falcon fairing?
Yeah, and there were actually documents about it, about the sort of testing that they were gonna be doing. I believe that testing was gonna be wrapping up. According to those documents that I saw, they are public, but I cannot really find out right now the link or anything to put in chat. But I fairly remember things about the sort of process being the testing was about to begin around September and then was going to wrap up around November, things like that. So because if you think about it, that fairing used the same location where Dream Chaser is located right now, the same giant vacuum chamber and things like that. I think it's at NASA Glenn Research Facility. So you have that big vacuum chamber where they test that, and right now Dream Chaser is there. So I guess that testing has wrapped up because Dream Chaser was able to go in there without, knocking on the door and be like, "Hey, someone in there," right? So I don't know. Yeah, maybe we'll get an update soon on what's the status of that. But so far, we don't have any further information apart from that, sadly.
This is, of course, a commercial resupply services mission, which means we've got science on board. Sawyer Rosenstein, do you want to give us a little rundown of what we have on board? There might, if I feel I remember correctly, there are some friendly rodent friends on board, or I might be wrong. Correct me.
I don't recall the mice are on this particular mission, which, yes, mice in space is a thing. That's part of when they talk about late load capability. A lot of times that late load is actual animals and things. We have seen spiders in space, which everyone should go DM Adrian pictures of spiders.
Oh boy, you're gonna get him mad now.
But in all seriousness, there's 20 plus payloads, and that's just coming from the ISS National Laboratory in association with CASIS. There are some really cool ones for medical advancements. There's a tissue chip study. So basically, they're going to try and test nanoparticles as a way to help treat degenerative joint diseases here on Earth. So they're doing it in space first to see if the absence of microgravity can have a little bit of a benefit to kickstarting things. Along those lines, they're also going to be testing a different type of protein that can be dissolved and mixed in microgravity to layer by layer manufacture artificial retinas of the eyes. So that could actually make it cheaper to help people see. And then, of
Yeah.
course, they're getting new computers. And in case you're wondering, it's an HP high power off the shelf computer, just super super buffed up so that it can withstand all the radiation and space stuff. There's more tests with the robotic arm. It's just a lot of cool things. Testing
of
thin
the-
coatings.
One of the experiments that I'm really interested about is the remote surgery with robotic arms. So they have this little thing that they've been carrying. It's actually, I think it's like the 5th or 6th flight of this. They said on the science conference that they did the other day, and it's really cool because that allows you to be able, like, in the future, if you have someone on station or something, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, but if it had, some injury or something like that, you can actually go and instead of having someone trained on the vehicle to be able to do it, maybe you can do it robotically from the ground and not have to mess, having to launch someone. Oh my God, we need to get a doctor up there, right? Like that's a very cool, interesting thing to be able to do. That I don't know, and it can help back on Earth because if you can think about it, you can do remote operations, remote surgeries here on Earth as well with great precision. Which is, again, that's more technology. That's really cool to me. There's another thing as well, which is the reentry capsules, which is funny because it's called Kentucky Reentry Probe Experiment, and I was thinking it could be called Kentucky Fried Capsules because it's a reentry capsule. It's actually multiple reentry capsules that are fitted inside of Cygnus, and when Cygnus comes back to reenter through the Earth, the Cygnus just breaks up and things like that, and then the reentry capsules can start their own reentry stuff, and they transmit all of the data through the Iridium satellite network and everything. It's a really cool experiment, but I think they really missed the opportunity to call it Kentucky Fried Capsules.
Oh, jeez.
dear. I'm going to have a quick look at the timeline here because we are approaching T-minus 10 minutes, which means we've got some very key milestones coming up in rather rapid succession. So with 7 minutes to go until launch, the Falcon 9 will begin its engine chill on the first stage, and at 4.5 minutes to go, the strongback will start to retract. We may be able to see it here slightly from Max's view, but it's kind of a little bit awkward because we're kind of looking dead on the Falcon, but fingers crossed we'll be able to get that indicated. 3 minutes and 10 seconds to go, the liquid oxygen load on the first stage will complete, and then 60 seconds later, the second stage will follow the first stage, finishing up its LOX load. At a minute to go, the Falcon 9 will enter startup. The propellant tanks will also be pressurized. And at 45 seconds to go, the launch director will verify the go for launch callout, the all-important go for launch. At 3 seconds, the engines will start to ignite. And then at 0 seconds, the Falcon should be lifting off. So there you go. A few things to keep your eyes out for. We'll obviously point them out along the way. Benjamin is asking, how does the late load time on this differ from Crew and Cargo Dragon timeframes from launch? So Alex, how does that differ? Because obviously on Dragon from 39A and soon 40, they have a crew access arm which is like fully compatible with Dragon, right? So does that impact the late load times?
It makes it easier, but believe it or not, I believe Cygnus is actually easier in horizontal position because of how it is arranged on the inside. They actually do that the same with Antares. They don't have like some kind of arm that reaches out to Antares. They do it on horizontal position, and then they have like the cap of the fairing just pops out, and they are able to go inside of the Cygnus. I believe though for Falcon 9 it's a bit more complicated. They had to have internal structures on the fairing and things like that. You may kind of be able to see it those on the only picture that they showed of the encapsulation process. But yeah, in the whole process, the rocket doesn't really go vertical until much later in the process. And it's very similar to Dragon as well, because there's a point in the countdown where you have to leave the area, like only specialized personnel need to be in the area. So you obviously start to evacuate, the folks that actually do the whole late load capability. So at the end of the day, it's probably about the same time in the process. We don't know, because those kind of technicalities and exactitudes, they don't really publish those things, but it is something that normally it's about the same range of time before the flight.
Copy that. Lorenzo is asking, wasn't this mission supposed to launch on B1072? What happened to that booster? Now, I think, Alex, it's fair to say that boosters switch quite often from missions. It's not entirely set until, it's actually, launched.
Yeah, SpaceX often, they change these booster assignments very often when they see an opportunity to be able to optimize their schedules or their booster productions and things like that. And so that usually changes over time. And it's not always sure, sometimes it may be set in stone or there's some hard requirement, but more often than not, that is not the case. And so this was the case on this mission where, they originally had assigned B1072 for this mission. Now that booster will instead be flown on GOES-U as a Falcon Heavy side booster, which is going to be awesome because that mission is going to be another science mission that I'm definitely looking forward to. Weather satellites, that's good, especially for here for Florida. Speaking of which,
whether you like it or not, we need it.
Yeah.
Sawyer, how's the weather out there? I guess that's a good segue to ask that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, get it? Whether you need it. Yeah. Anyway, it's funnier when you explain it.
Sure.
There's maybe 3 tiny wispy clouds in the sky. Otherwise, it is a beautiful Florida blue sky. It was very cold this morning for Florida. It was, in the high 40s. And now it is absolutely gorgeous. Barely a light breeze. I don't see any issues currently from where I am with weather.
Sounds good. Hopefully, it stays that way.
Which should get us great views then, hopefully, of the launch, the boost back, and the landing.
Yeah. Very quickly, as we wrap up the queue here, just going to go through a little bit more support we've been getting. TMC Rate 25 Gaming, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Thank you for upgrading to Capcom. You now get access to the Discord server. Apocalypse Cow, that's a name I've heard before, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Peter with a $10 super chat. No message, but thank you very much for your support. Ian has become a Capcom member, Camille has become a Pad Rat member, and also Christopher has become a Pad Rat member as we enter the final few minutes of the count here for Cygnus NG-20 atop this very Falcon 9 from Space Launch Complex 40. Let's have a look here for another question just to tie us over. Is there any, there's a question from Kanan again, is there any use for a polar orbit station and a crew tower at Slick 6, for example? Now, a certain Chris B is going to be reminiscing of the days of Enterprise being fitted at Slick 6. Sawyer, as a fellow shuttle fan yourself, do you think there is any use for a polar orbit station at this moment, or do you think we could see one in the future?
As of right now, no, not really. Especially because I know this is going to make some West Coasters very upset, but we have the Southern Polar Launch Corridor right here
we go.
from KSC now. In addition to the polar launches that are capable out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. So I don't think that that's going to be something we see anytime soon. Obviously, we'll still see polar launches, but in terms of being able to have constant communication with the crew and just, the scientific benefit of being basically able to see over 90% of the Earth where the ISS is currently, I don't see that in the near future.
Speaking of polar southern corridor, we actually have the next flight from the Cape here is with the PACE mission from NASA that is actually using that corridor. So that's going to be the next launch from here from Slick 40.
And as we approach 5 minutes to go, Sawyer, I'm going to send you off here so you can hopefully get some rather cracking photos of this vehicle as it ascends into the heavens for more cargo to the ISS.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I've got cameras at the ready. Max is at the ready. We're ready as long as Falcon's ready.
And I'll also just mention, because I completely forgot to mention during the intro, that Max is doing the broadcast camera today. So thank you very much for that, Max. Greatly appreciated, as always, bringing us splendid views of the part. This is from NASA TV. This is from Max. There we go. So as we enter the final minutes of the count here, the tension rises, the adrenaline starts to increase. Because in just 4.5 minutes time this vehicle should be leaping off of Slick 40. There's a Tesla going past, so it's probably a SpaceX employee. You never know. But as we mentioned earlier, that road, far from the exclusion zone. We're completely fine. Don't worry about it. Unless there's no wayward cars, wayward boats, wayward planes, I think we're in the clear. Ground umbilical carrier plate. That's a name that shuttle fans absolutely despise. Thank you for gifting one Red Team membership. Everybody, if you have received any gifted memberships during this stream or any stream for that matter, just make sure to do an at the person in chat and thank them, because the way that the memberships are gifted, they're not like specifically picked for anyone. They're randomly distributed by YouTube depending on factors like watch time and the such. So we have no control over who gets them. The person gifting has no control over who gets them. It's all up to the algorithm. So make sure to thank the person in chat, because it's by chance that you've ended up with it. And we are now just 3.5 minutes to go for this flight.
Yeah, strongback retraction is now well in progress, and they should be wrapping up liquid oxygen load on the first stage real soon.
We can see venting now coming off from the side of the vehicle, and is it coming from the strongback as well? It's kind of hard to see from this angle, Alex.
Yeah, they have vents on the intrastage for the MVAC. They also, you can see there are some of those vents for the MVAC. We also can see a little bit coming from the from the strum bag itself.
And you can also see him it's kind of, I don't know what the right term would be, but it's kind of like forming around the bottom of the first stage a bit. It's kind of just looks like a fluffy first stage. Maybe Adrian, we need a Adrian. Can we get a Falcon 9 plushie, please? By any chance?
Yes.
Is that a thing? Can we get it, please?
I will definitely buy a ton of those.
And you can see there, also coming from just under the fairing there, little splutters of vents there. Wonderful to see. In the humid, as always, Floridian air. Very quickly, Telstar86 has gifted a Red Team membership and Broke Ninja has become a Pad Wrap member. Thank you very much for that, everybody. As always, it is greatly appreciated, helping to keep things moving, keep the hamsters in the wheels, running around, keeping the photons and electrons flowing into your face as we bring you these live rocket vehicle views. Not vehicles, well, vehicle, I suppose. SpaceX brings you the vehicles, we'll bring you the views from around the world. So thank you very much for all of that. And oh, look at this shot here. So fluffy. I love it. It's so fluffy. It just looks kind of mesmerizing, that's all. It looks like when they bring out like fancy restaurants, they'll bring out like an ice pack and it has like kind of condensation just kind of all over it, you know, with the food on it. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
And there you can see the return of the Stromback vent. That is it signifies that they have wrapped up liquid oxygen load on the second stage. So Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with propellants ahead of its launch.
Fantastic. And that vent now just seems to be kind of dying off ever so slightly. Fizzling out, if we can say that. There you go. The last wisps of it there, just fading away from Max's view.
Yeah.
And we are now just 50 seconds away from the launch of Cygnus NG-20 from Slick 40. Just a little more wispy vents coming out here and there. 40 seconds to go. 30 seconds.
And we are go for launch.
Good to hear. "20 seconds to go now. Just a little bit more of a puff there from the side of Falcon 9. 15 seconds to go. And we are now into the final 10 seconds. Keep your eyes at the base of that strong back arm there. You'll see a green flash. There's the water deluge. There's the ignition. And liftoff of Cygnus NG-20, carrying even more cargo and science to the International Space Station.
Falcon 9, parking out to the northeast.
MOD here, pressure summit.
At T plus 40 seconds, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch
Power
Complex
and
40.
telemetry nominal.
This is our 10th mission of the year and second to the International Space Station. And we've throttled down our engines in preparation for max Q, which is coming up here in a few seconds. This is the largest structural load.
60 seconds into flight, you can see the vapor cone on top there, I think. Or it's just the fairing glinting in the sunlight here from Max. Great track here. Very, very strong sun there. Looking fantastic as always. And there we go, that is Max Q. Oh, look at that. Absolutely beautiful.
Wow.
You can see the plume expanding there as the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner. It's absolutely incredible shot from our perspective here at the Cape. Wow, look at that. Beautiful. You can see the expansion of each individual engine there on Falcon 9. Just looks incredible.
Yeah.
Let's have a look here. This is
We're
from
now
Max.
coming up on Miko. We're gonna see that booster turn around back to land.
Hopefully, we'll be able to get the booster just glinting off a little bit here, because we still have. You can see this is the plume from the Falcon. It's absolutely incredible to see. It just blows my mind how you can still see the remnants of this vehicle from so far away, and it's so high up. There you go. There's Miko.
Oh! Haha!
Oh, look at this. This is a manual track by Gauge, I believe. Oh, look at this plume interaction.
Here
This
we
looks
go. Look at
incredible.
that.
You can see the boost back burn. Here it comes. Oh dear, and unfortunately, ladies and gents, I'm going to have to show something pretty cursed here, because we do have a stubby Merlin. Oh dear. And you can see Cygnus. Here goes the payload fairing. You can see Cygnus inside of the payload fairing here.
Wow!
And here comes back to the stubby, unfortunately. Oh dear. Oh dear. Now, we should just be waiting now until that Falcon lights its engines up again. Oh, beautiful view of Florida there from the second stage. But back to the first stage, because in just a few moments' time, we will be able to see the entry burn and then the landing burn. When that entry burn ignites, hopefully our camera operators, both on the robots and Max with the broadcast cam, will be able to identify the booster there and then get a track of it. But obviously, when it isn't burning its engines, it becomes quite difficult to see, especially in the bright Florida sunlight. Yeah. So we're just going to have to wait for that. But for the time being, these onboard views are just beautiful.
Except for the one on the right.
Well, except for the one on the right, okay.
Except for the one on the right.
Everything around the nozzle looks beautiful, Alex. Can we agree?
Sure. But one of the things that, so right now they have shut down the engines on the booster for that boost back burn. And some of the things that we normally get to hear or like being asked is, why is it that it doesn't go, the velocity doesn't drop to zero? And it's because it's showing the complete velocity. The one that they're trying to null or zero out and actually be able to put it back to land, that is the horizontal velocity. So you still have that upwards momentum from the booster, and you can see it actually climbed up from about 120 to about 140 kilometers up in space. So that is sort of why you don't see during that boost back burn the velocity going all the way down to zero. It's just like you go to zero on the one that is horizontal to the ground. So that's the interesting thing that usually we can only see on boost back burns on these kind of missions. And now it's turning back, slowly turning back to land as it heads engines first for that re-entry.
And this is I love it. We have a beautiful noon Florida sun. We have a wonderful solid camera connection to both the first and the second stages. These views are just, this is the best of the best that you can get. I mean, this just looks incredible. And soon we should start to see the Falcon actually steer itself with the grid fins, because even though it doesn't have any wings, it still produces a little bit of lift, which it can use to steer itself back towards the Cape, which I believe you can see on the right side, or you could see on the right side of that onboard camera there. Just for a split second, you could see the camera. And there is the booster from the ground. The booster should be returning ever so soon to the Cape. We can see some of the puffs there from the reaction control system. And the entry burn should be starting ever so soon here.
I'm curious, because this one is carrying the MVAC, the short MVAC. And so it's probably going to be one of those one single engine entry burns. Because it's usually 3 engines, so they start one, then 2 outer ones, and then they shut down those 2, and then it, the single one remains, and then it shuts down completely. But for this one, I'm really interested to see whether it's just one all across the entry burn. We'll figure it out in just a few seconds.
Falcon 9 doing a wonderful Cape flyover for us. I don't know why we bothered with the helicopter. We should just hire a Falcon 9. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful views from up here.
It's a bit farther up, though, than
a bit further up. Well, it's about to become a lot closer, Alex.
That's true. That's true.
And here comes the entry burn. And here it is from Max.
Look, single engine. Oh, it was actually 1-3. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's cool view though.
Was that a good bit of vapor?
Look
we
at
could
that.
see
Look
there?
at that. Yeah. That booster is going almost sideways there. Oh, holy moly.
Oh, look at this. This is from one of the bots at the... Oh, we just lost it. But that was from one of the bots.
It's super cool to see them doing that thing where they enter like almost sideways.
Oh, you can see the fluffiness from the air on the bottom. Oh my god, this is such a cool view. Sorry, I'm absolutely geeking out right now. This looks absolutely incredible. And here comes
there
the
we go.
relight. You can see it there just on the left.
Just almost there.
Oh my days, look at this. Absolutely incredible shot here.
Wow, this is such a great view.
And touchdown. Completing yet another flight. Oh, these RTLSs never get old. I mean, if SpaceX can do more, I mean, it's stubby nozzle. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. But it means we get more. We get no, it doesn't. It means we get more ASDSs. So I still hate stubby nozzle. I got that completely backwards in my head. I still hate stubby nozzle.
Well, and for those
that was Seco.
there you go. Speaking of the impact, right?
And you can still see here from one of our Cape cams the plume from the concrete, the dust that was kicked up by the Falcon. The Falcon is just below the tree line there, unfortunately. But still, an absolutely incredible view there from touchdown. And as we always say, DASA's favourite view on launch day, an empty launch pad, an empty Space Launch Complex 4C with a strong back at the 45-degree position, which means that Falcon 9 has just launched Cygnus NG-20 towards the International Space Station. The second stage has done its job. Alex, do we know when the Cygnus will be released from the second stage? Is that going to be soon, or is that going to be in like hours' time? Wonder if we just lost Alex there for a second. But there is the Cygnus in low
I'm here.
orbit.
I had to run up. Can you hold the fort for like 1 minute, and I'll be back.
Okay. You can see Cygnus here. Well, you could see Cygnus rather in low Earth orbit there. Just beautiful views, mesmerising views here from the second stage.
I can
And
also
Sawyer,
help
I
while
believe
Alex
we
is
have
out.
Oh, hello Sawyer. I believe we have you back. How was that?
Hello, Ryan.
Unfortunately, we didn't. We couldn't hear the triple sonic boom on our end. But how was that? I imagine that was quite loud.
Definitely couldn't miss the triple sonic boom in person, that's for sure. I was just telling Max, I was taking pictures of it, and I got so startled, even though I know it's coming. It was just so loud and so pungent that as I was taking pictures, my hand nudged the focus ring. But
Oh.
so the landing leg part might be a little blurry. But anyway, the launch itself also, there was a light breeze blowing in our direction. And so that makes the sound amplified even more. And we're also talking only 2 miles away or so. So that was unbelievable.
These second stage views are also, I wouldn't say unbelievable, because I can totally believe it. You know, I believe this is real. But you know, the sun there just glinting off the lens there with these wonderful little rings and the clouds over the Atlantic. Just absolutely beautiful. It just looks incredible. And we can see here now on the left the empty launch pad. Cygnus is on the second stage is on the right with that cursed stubby nozzle. Don't let Max hear me, but it is cursed. I'm sorry, it just is. And it seems our vehicles are leaving the pad, so I don't know whether they were involved or they're running away. But before the launch, we saw loads of vehicles running to the pad or towards that general direction, and now everybody's leaving. So, yeah. Anywho, that was an absolutely incredible launch and re-entry of the first stage, and landing, of course. It looked incredible. The view from the tracking camera, I don't know where that tracking camera is positioned, but I assume it's going to be somewhere like really close to the landing zone, because you're looking straight up at the bottom of the Falcon as it's coming in, and you've got a very nice lens on that tracking camera as well, from SpaceX or NASA there. So
Yeah, because from here it was
incredible.
the entry burn was directly overhead. So I mean, you literally look like you're right underneath it. And then with the whole northeastern trajectory, the booster literally came back in. It looked like it was flying almost completely sideways, obviously correcting itself before touching down. But it's weird. It looks like A, it's going to land on your head, and then B, that it's going to try and land sideways, and yet it nails it every time.
Alex, how did you find that?
Wow, that was awesome. The only problem is I got to miss the last part, because yeah, boy, I didn't expect that they were gonna be flying with the stubby impact, but
yeah, that took me by surprise. I was like, oh no, I can't show this.
Because it's like, oh, it's an impact, okay, with a short nozzle. I was gonna say right before I had to leave for a second that booster landing that we saw, that was the 13th time a booster has now flown 10 times. So if you remember, they had this original goal of being able to fly a booster for 10 times. So that already has happened 13 boosters, and they are really close to getting to 20 flights on some of the other boosters. So really beating their own expectations, I guess.
Very quickly, I am just going to go around the house and say a big thank you to everybody who was out there doing photo things, camera things. Sawyer, first of all, thank you very much for being on with us today. Wonderful to have your voice on here as always, especially when you are Cape Side.
My pleasure. I mean, I love being out here. This is what gives me life. This is what gives me reason to live, is more rockets. So it's always fantastic to be out here. Plus, I love science missions. So just an added bonus there. And yes, I know we've got 3 of us out here that are feverishly working on getting some good pictures out for you, and a whole bunch more for members.
Oh, and I think, look at that.
There we go.
Cygnus,
First.
very, what's the word? Elegantly, there we go. Cygnus very elegantly swims away. Badum-tush.
Pun token awarded.
Thank you. Of course, thank you to Max Evans out there operating one of our cams there. And of course, also a big thank you to Gage, who was doing a manual track with the one of the robots at the LC-39 press site, getting that launch and landing as well. Alex, of course, very much thank you to you for coming on and sharing your knowledge, as always.
It's always a pleasure, and this was a very nice launch landing of, again, really, really great partnership here between Northrop Grumman and SpaceX with Cygnus on Falcon.
And of course, my name is Ryan Caton. You would know that by now, hopefully. Talking about rockets, pressing buttons, pulling levers, all of the things. And as Cygnus now just drifts away into the blackness of space, we're going to say thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Of course, they're going to cut away from it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And here we go.
We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
What do you think?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
300
143 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane